One of the things we've been covering a lot is how, of course, as we've talked about for years now, the Democratic set of priorities in this current political moment versus the Republican set of priorities on policy could not be more different. And there's such a clear choice there. But also, something that a lot of people are being compelled by for good reason is just the difference in how the two candidates, Kamala Harris and their running mate, so Kamala Harris and Trump, and then Tim Walz and JD Vance, how they relate to people on a basic human level, and how seeing normal interactions or speeches from the Harris ticket shows an ability to relate and connect with people in a way that Trump and JD Vance just really struggle to do. And the latest example of that, a pretty devastating video, split screen, was put together by our friends over at the Midas Touch Network. And they compared on children specifically the difference in Kamala Harris's behavior versus Donald Trump's behavior. Interesting to compare this specific topic, given that MAGA Republicans like to pride themselves a lot in being the protect the kids movement. And we've talked about how that doesn't align, it seems, with their policies. But here, you see it as well.
You never have to ask anyone permission to leave. Okay, I want you to remember that. You never have to ask anyone permission to leave. When you want to leave, yeah, what did I say?
Here, you want to give them the
right? When you're ready to leave, you can leave. Okay? Yeah?
You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Chloe already has her cape on. That's what his hair is.
Oh my goodness! You wore your cape! I forgot to wear my cape. Yeah, look at you. Come here, let me see you.
You want to go around? We'll get a photo of you.
Everybody wants to
All right, and so are you going to talk to the other superheroes? Yeah, did you talk to them about the oath? Yeah, what are we going to do when we take the oath? We're going to be strong, work hard, kind, remember all that? Yeah?
What does Tiffany have of yours, and what does Tiffany have of Marla's?
She's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will tell.
My sister's name is Maya. She's usually with me. Let me see you, Maya. Let me see you.
You always hold that chin up. You hear me? Okay. You always hold that chin up, okay?
If you don't make it, I'll take it.
You will? Okay. Well, then we have a problem.
Really beautiful is Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton. And I've known Paris Hilton from the time she's 12.
She's hot.
Her parents are friends of mine. And, you know, the first time I saw her, she walked into the room and said, who the hell is that?
Did you want to bang her?
Okay, so you get the point. We've seen these clips of Trump before, and a very interesting difference between Vice President Kamala Harris's more inspirational and appropriate interactions with children compared to Trump's rhetoric and interactions on that front. And of course, these are specific moments, but Trump does have that. And you could find a moment where he's fine hanging out with a person in a photo shoot environment. I get that. But interesting and devastating nevertheless. And also, as we're seeing, people are really grabbing on to a much more hopeful, positive, exciting message. That's been the whole discussion. On one end, you have a dystopian, dark, fearful message about this campaign or about this election. And on the other, you have a Harris-Walz uplifting message. I have come down with an illness. I think I got it at the Trump rally over the weekend. If you want to support the show that comes out in sickness and in health, you can do so by clicking that subscribe button. I think that might help me get better as well. Back to the video. And here was some of Walz's remarks at one of their Pennsylvania bus stops.
That's what people know. And some of us who have less hair and are old enough, can remember when you could go to Thanksgiving, watch a Steelers game with your relatives, and not complain about politics the whole time. Not be on each other's neck. Because you shared a commitment to democracy, a commitment to personal freedoms, a commitment to public education, a commitment to infrastructure. We don't call each other names. We don't do it. And we don't use the least fortunate amongst us as punchlines for our jokes because they're our neighbors. They're our neighbors. And so you're getting an opportunity to see the best side of America. And for the young people here, they maybe haven't seen a campaign like this because of COVID, because of things that's happening. This is a chance to bring out that joy, turn the page, and look to the future. This idea of going forward. So,
you know, I saw some reporting about how one of the things Vice President Kamala Harris and presumably Tim Walz along with her are doing intentionally is a lot of rejecting the advisor class or the consultant class's advice on how to run the campaign. And I saw, again, some reporting about how in the past, Kamala Harris felt like out of insecurity, she would just side with what the people who are supposed to know a lot about how to run a political campaign would say. And I got that vibe. I've mentioned, I don't know if I use this exact language, but she came off as overcoached and was thinking about too many different bits of advice, sometimes contradictory, as to how to perfectly present. But instead, in this campaign, there's an air of authenticity that I think a lot of people are motivated by. And one of the things that I think a bunch of campaign advisors typically would not ask you to do is emphasize, as much as they are, the way that we can address painful issues but be happy warriors doing it, was the phrase Kamala Harris used. That we can emphasize joy without ignoring the massive hardship we're trying to address. And that can be a blend that far surpasses the excitement of the dystopian, full fear-mongering Trump campaign. A message of hope that is an exciting and positive and bright one. I don't know if a lot of advisors would have crafted this message. But again, behind the scenes, it seems that Kamala Harris is finally rejecting some of that and just going forward with what her gut says. And so far, it seems to be working. And I think when you're the incumbent party, there is this fear that if you talk too much about uplifting things, people might construe you to be ignoring things that don't feel uplifting, like the hardship that politics is supposed to be addressing. But this campaign is showing that you can very much do both. Also, you should have moments like this that, again, the human connection element that you can't see with a J.D. Vance or Trump. Yeah, they're saying thank you all for waiting. One, and that's interesting because Trump constantly shows up 30 minutes, an hour late to speeches, never even mentions that he was late. He'll complain about how he's hot, but everyone's concerned about y'all in the crowd having some sort of medical event because of that. What about me? Now, as an example of the difference in just basic humanity-oriented principles between the two candidates, remember, and the Republican Voters Against Trump account on X is doing a good job of every day posting different examples of why we shouldn't vote for Trump. But remember Trump's response when he was asked about his own vice president being targeted by Trump's supporters and them chanting, "Hang Mike Pence."
Were you worried about him during that siege? Were you worried about his safety?
No, I thought he was well protected, and I had heard that he was in good shape. No,
you heard those chants. That was terrible. I mean, it was,
he could have. Well, the people were very angry.
They're saying, "Hang Mike Pence."
Because it's common sense. How can you, if you know a vote is fraudulent, right? Yeah. How can you pass on a fraudulent vote to Congress?
Were you worried about?
They were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," and Trump essentially says, well, they were angry. And it's that on top of every policy reason we've spent, like I said, years talking about with Trump, and the way that he threatens democracy that's leading even a super conservative former judge, Michael Luttig, to finally come out and endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for president. CNN reports retired federal appeals court judge Jay Michael Ludwig, a prominent conservative legal scholar put on the bench by President George H.W. Bush, is endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris over former President Donald Trump, whose candidacy he describes as an existential threat to American democracy. In the presidential election of 2024, there's only one political party and one candidate for the presidency that can claim the mantle of defender and protector of America's democracy and constitution and the rule of law. As a result, I will unhesitatingly vote for the Democratic Party's candidate for the presidency of the United States, Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. And Michael Ludwig, as we've talked about a lot, has been one of the people out front saying, as a conservative legal scholar, I can tell you that what Trump tried to do in the wake of him losing in the 2020 election could not have been more unconstitutional and anti-democratic. And so a lot of credit here to Ludwig for making this decision and sharing that publicly, undoubtedly bringing onto himself and his family threats from MAGA folks, but doing so in the interest of democracy. Let me know what you thought of all of that in the comments. If you want to support the work that this show does, you can do that by clicking the join button below, and you get extra members-only content for it. And then if you want to donate to Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign, whatever you feel comfortable with, you can do that by clicking the link in the description of this video.